Alrighty, so in this video now we're just going to see a bit more about fill and border. We introduced it in the previous video, and now we're going to get the advanced version of width and border here. So we already saw rectangle is requiring you to put down X, Y, width, height in that order, but then you can write fills and borders in whatever order you'd like. Once you have a border, there's, I guess, kind of like two extra other optional properties you can put on top of that border. Once you have a border, if you'd like, you can also specify a border width. Now, again, getting back to the errors, it is important that there's no spaces between border and width and that it's a capital W. We call this in programming camel casing. A lot of times you cannot have a space between two things that are supposed to be the same thing. So, right, border width, it's like saying, hey, I want to make a border width. You're not allowed to have a space between them. So it's called camel case when you, at the start of a new word, capitalize it. So you got a little like bump in the middle of the word to be like, oh, border width. It's easier to read than border width with a little w. And like we showed before, border width with a little w, you'll get an error. It's not going to like it. But if I put that big W in, I can set the border width to, and then just choose some number and play around with it. And we'll see that the width of the border can get a little bit thicker. It was hard to see. Maybe we make the border width like way bigger. Let's try going like 15 over here. And if I run it now, well, clearly look at that. That's a thick border, right? Maybe bring it back a little bit, maybe to 8. But clearly you can see, all right, we got a border around. Notice the border does not go out of the shape. It always kind of increases in. Just noticing that, right? It's not going to change the actual width or height of your shape. So there's your border. Let's go even crazier. How about, so yeah, we should talk about this, I guess probably next. Now that we introduced borders, so you got your border, your fill, your border width. You can change the size of the border. You can also, like, let's try to make this a little bit see-through looking. This looks like it's see-through. Unfortunately, it's not. If we try to put maybe another rectangle behind it, it'll be covered. Oh, I guess this is a good video to talk about that too. So we will talk about that. So far, we've always made our rectangles separate from each other. What happens though, if I try to make this purple border rectangle at maybe the same coordinates? Well, I don't see my green and white rectangle anymore. Well, this is because when you run your program, the way Python works is it's going to go from the top of your program, one line at a time down, executing each line of code. So first I have a comment over here. It doesn't do anything. You got the hashtag, it's green. It's just a note for yourself. It's not actually going to do anything. Then we get to line 2 and we say, hey, I want to make a rectangle with all this stuff. At these coordinates, this size, fill is white, the border is green, a border width of 8. Then I sticker that rectangle on the screen. Next, I go to line 3, and whatever you put down first gets covered behind it. So I'll put down this rectangle first, but then I come ahead and on line 3 put another rectangle over it. Well, the most recent one that was put there is covering the first one because it goes in order from the top of my program, one line at a time below. And that's why when I run this, you see my black and purple square covering up that green and white rectangle. So what I could do is maybe like offset this a little bit. Let's put this at 50 and let's offset it diagonally too. Let's move it up a little bit. Don't forget, up in the Y is changing the Y to make it smaller. So now you'll see, okay, right? It's not directly on top of it. In fact, the top left corner of my green one you can see over here behind that. This is covering it up. If I wanted the black and purple one to be behind it, well, I would just have to change the order to draw that one first, put that sticker down first, and then cover it with the green and white one afterwards. So I'll just paste that purple one up there. And now when I run this, the purple one's behind it. And here's where I was getting to before I realized we need to talk about, the ordering of things, was I made the fill white. So it looks like it's empty, but actually I painted it white you can't see the purple and black box behind this green and white one. If you'd like, here's another extra little thing you can do. Instead of doing a color, and notice, by the way, with all the errors in the exercises and in the notes, they talk about this. I've kind of been ignoring it. You have to put all your colors in quotes. Your numbers don't go in quotes, though. I'm not going to explain why. Magic programming stuff, right? Similarly, if I want to make something see-through that has a border, I'm going to actually make its fill not have quotes, and I'm going to say the fill, I'm going to set the fill equal to none with a capital N. You know you're doing it right when the none turns pink. It's a special value in Python, which is why it changes different colors. If I run this now, because the fill has nothing inside of it, you'll see, well, I look at the background was already white of my canvas, so I see the background behind it, but now you can actually see that purple guy behind that green guy because there's nothing filled inside of there. So you can use this idea of filling something with none to be able to see through something that's got a border, or maybe you don't want to ever be able to see through it, so you want to make it white or the same color as the background, so it looks like there's nothing in it, but actually we did cover it up in white. What else do I want to talk about here? Let's go ahead and just add the one last thing, and then we'll call it quits here. You can also say dashes and set that equal to true. Again, notice this word, these special words, none or true or false, by the way, don't go in quotes because they're a special value. They turn pink. It's like, I am the value true. I am the value none. Here it has to be in quotes because there's no value green. It's doing some other magic stuff behind the background. Anyways, if I say dashes are true and I run this now, it will actually make the border and it will make little dashes along the border. So I got a dashed border here. So you can make dash borders by saying just true. You can also make dashes, and this is even more advanced, by putting in parentheses two values. It's going to take in, and I had to write this down because I don't remember this, it's going to take in a width of your dashes and the gap length between your dashes. So play around with these two to see. You can make your dashes fatter or thinner. You can make the space between each dashes longer or shorter by adding the gap to be a bigger, smaller number. So let's make I'll try making my dashes like width 2. I don't really know what that's supposed to be. And the gap will be 4. So if I run this now, we've got much thinner dashes with some spacing between them. If I make the gap maybe 6, we'll end up having less dashes there because the gaps are bigger. If I make the gaps even bigger, let's make it like 16. Is that even going to be like, yeah, there's very few dashes here. And then you can play with how the depth of the width of your dashes. So the width's getting it like to be a thicker dash. Now we got some other thicker dashes. It just does some weird stuff. That's dashes for you. That's border width for you. That's a fill of none versus a fill of white for you. Couple little thoughts that are worth having. Oh, notice, by the way. Oh, I wonder if I make this fill none. I want to see something. Ooh, notice, by the way, the fill being none, it actually does affect the dashes if you have dashes in there, right? When I had the fill white before, not only could you not see in the middle, but it was covering up the dashes. Let's see that again. So the fill, I'll make it back to white. And then notice, right? Like, not only do I not see the black and purple one through it, but I don't see it through the dashes either. Where if I make it none, it goes through the dashes as well, which is kind of cool. That's some advanced extra little properties for you there. We talked about border width, we talked about dashes, and we talked about a fill of none versus a fill of like white or some other background color. And we also did talk about the ordering of these things, which is an important concept here. There's more I want to talk about, but this video is long enough, so we're going to talk about some other stuff in the next video.